The relationship between Christians and the mainstream media has long been complicated, with many believers expressing distrust and skepticism towards the motivations of major news outlets. This distrust stems from a variety of factors, including the media's perceived bias against Christianity, its mishandling of religious issues, and its often superficial coverage of complex spiritual topics. As a result, many Christians have come to the conclusion that they cannot trust the motivations of the mainstream media and instead seek out alternative sources of news and information. One of the primary reasons for this distrust is the media's apparent bias against Christianity. In recent years, there has been a noticeable increase in anti-Christian rhetoric and sentiment in the mainstream media, with many outlets openly mocking or ridiculing Christian beliefs and values. This bias is often subtle, but it can be seen in the way that Christian viewpoints are marginalized or ignored, while secular or liberal perspectives are given prominence. For example, during the 2020 US presidential election, many major news outlets were accused of ignoring or downplaying the importance of faith and religious issues, while instead focusing on more pressing concerns such as climate change or social justice. Another reason for Christian distrust of the mainstream media is its mishandling of religious issues. The media often approaches complex spiritual topics with a superficial or simplistic mindset, failing to grasp the nuances and depths of Christian theology. This can lead to misrepresentation and misinterpretation of Christian beliefs, as well as a lack of understanding of the concerns and values of Christian communities. For instance, the media's coverage of issues such as abortion, gay marriage, and religious freedom often reflects a profound ignorance of the underlying theological and philosophical principles that shape Christian perspectives on these issues. Furthermore, the mainstream media's handling of Christian figures and institutions is often marked by a lack of respect and fairness. Christian leaders and organizations are frequently subjected to scrutiny and criticism, while the secular counterparts are given a free pass. This double standard is particularly evident in the media's treatment of Christian politicians, who are often held to a higher standard of moral accountability than their non-Christian counterparts. The media's obsession with gotcha journalism, where reporters seek to catch Christian leaders in a moment of weakness or inconsistency, has created a toxic environment in which Christians are reluctant to engage with the media or share their perspectives. In addition to these factors, the mainstream media's increasing reliance on secular and liberal sources of information has contributed to the erosion of trust among Christians. The media's use of experts and sources who are often hostile to Christianity has created a situation in which Christians are forced to rely on second-hand information and interpretation, rather than being able to engage directly with the issues themselves. This has led to a sense of disconnection and disenfranchisement among Christians, who feel that their voices and perspectives are not being represented or heard. Finally, the mainstream media's failure to cover important Christian stories and issues has also contributed to the distrust and disillusionment of many believers. The media's silence on issues such as Christian persecution, religious freedom, and the role of faith in public life has created a sense of frustration and abandonment among Christians, who feel that their concerns and values are being ignored or dismissed. This failure to cover important Christian stories has also led to a lack of awareness and understanding of the issues that are most important to Christians, further exacerbating the sense of distrust and disconnection. In conclusion, the motivations of the mainstream media are often at odds with the values and concerns of Christians. The media's bias against Christianity, its mishandling of religious issues, and its lack of respect for Christian figures and institutions have all contributed to a sense of distrust and disillusionment among believers. As a result, many Christians have come to rely on alternative sources of news and information, seeking out outlets and platforms that share their values and perspectives. Until the mainstream media can demonstrate a greater understanding and respect for Christian concerns and values, it is unlikely that this distrust will dissipate, and Christians will continue to seek out alternative sources of information and community.